Welcome to the West Sport Show. Today we discuss the AFL anointing a new chair and a thrilling finale in the AFLW for West Coast and Fremantle. Welcome to the West Sport Show. I am joined by Ben Smith, and it should be cricket season, Ben, but there's plenty happening in AFL and AFLW at the moment.
Hey, Quarters, how are you? Yeah, it's the people think this is the quiet time of the year for West Sports stuff because there's no footy. Well, there is footy. There's women's footy and
always busy, Ben. Always busy. In the last couple of days, in particular, today. Let's start with today. Some big news from AFL House, and we knew Richard Goyder's tenure was coming to an end. So he's been on the AFL Commission for 14 years. 7 of those have been as chair of the AFL Commission. A period of great change. I think his early tenure coincided with the advent of the AFLW. So they've announced today that they have anointed a successor, and he is Craig Drummond, who is a former Geelong president. He was president for 4 years during the period in which they won the 2022 premiership. Medibank. He's got very deep business knowledge. So the AFL Commission has endorsed him. And what's interesting here is the 18 AFL clubs still get to pick who their commissioners are. So I expect that to happen once the commissioners are in place, which will happen in next March. Then the AFL Commission gets to select the chair. So they have announced it will be Craig Drummond. I spoke to Richard Goyder earlier. He's confident that will happen and that they're really happy with their selection. Now, this has been a very long process. It has involved a global firm, presidents of clubs, directors of clubs. Those in the frame were Peter Gordon from the Western Bulldogs, Peter Allen from Essendon, and Jeff Brown from Collingwood. Paul Bassett is a current commissioner who some expect to stand down next year. So with Richard Goyder ending his tenure and Paul Bassett stepping down, there'll be 2 vacancies there. When Craig Drummond steps in, the AFL will endorse him as chair. So bold new future ahead. As I said, I spoke to Goyder earlier, and he spoke of the legacy. He doesn't really say that's for others to sort of determine what my legacy will be. But the important thing is that he thinks fans still own the game. So what do you think the challenges are for the AFL going forward?
That's a good question. It's a loaded question. It's probably its own podcast episode in itself, isn't it?
It is.
I think I do think the fans still own the game, but I do sense there's a bit of a level of discontent between the fans and the league with some of the decisions the league have made. We talk about opening round. Some fans aren't happy about that. Some of the rule changes, have left a bit of a bad taste.
Are you a bounce man or a non-bounce man? Because, of course, the bounce has been...
I can take it or leave it. It's aesthetically quite pleasing, isn't it?
I think to start a quarter it is.
Yeah, a well-made bounce where it goes straight down and up is pretty beautiful. But when you get the wonky ones, and the fact that then you've got to kind of redo it, and then you just throw it up in the air. I to be honest, I'm not too attached to it.
Yeah, there's some romance for me. I just still can't see a game starting without that thud into the earth, particularly a grand final. I think it's one of the great things.
That is true. It's we love the romance of sport, don't we? We love the the traditions, and I love the traditional aspect of the AFL, even things like the MCG always hosting the grand final and the father-son rule. Yes, there are problems with it, but there is part of me which actually still quite likes the sense of tradition that's wrapped up in.
So there's 5. They've gone to 5 on the bench, so there's no sub anymore. I like that change.
I can't wait till we get 5 on the bench and a sub in a few years' time.
Oh,
and then it'll go to
6
on the bench.
Of course. I think at the moment they would be discussing changes to the ruck rule too, which will allow a bit more athleticism in the game. I think there will be the last touch will be heavily scrutinised and discussed. That's been successful in South Australia. I don't think it will change the game radically. I think they'll bring it in between the arcs. And I think they will be definitely discussing a wildcard round and whether the bye stays where it is or it moves pre-grand final.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of a wildcard.
No, nor am I. We already have one.
Yeah.
It's called the Final 8.
Yeah, and also like in America, right? Like they have wild card in America because sometimes not all the same teams play each other, or sometimes you play your division rivals more than the other, teams from another conference or another division. It's all very kind of, they have this wild card thing because all the divisions and conferences are segregated. In the AFL, there's no divisions and conferences. You play every team at least once. You play some teams twice. You don't need a wild card because you play everyone. It's a fair, yes, you're going to play some tougher teams some years where you get them twice maybe because of the quirks of a schedule. But it just feels like Americanization for the sake of Americanization. I don't like it. It's like, it's making this kind of, it feels like there's something that they're trying to force on fans. It's like, you want this, and the fans are going, no, we don't. I just can't, wrap my head around why we need that. We've got a top 8 after 22, 23 rounds.
It's all about broadcasting, Ben, and money in the coffers,
money,
I think.
yeah. I mean, yes, we'd all watch it, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing,
Yeah, well, I think it'll come in, just mark my words. How's your home filtration, Ben? Let me tell you why. Get the home improvement the whole country is talking about, complete home filtration. A water filter for the whole home that means you'll experience not only better tasting drinking water, but also healthier skin and hair, reduce scale on shower screens, prolong the lifespan of your appliances, and so much more. Complete Home Filtration has tens of thousands of happy customers, and you'll be raving about your water from the first drop. Visit CompleteHomeFiltration.com.au now and book your free in-home consultation today. That's CompleteHomeFiltration.com.au.
You know what actually does have a good filtration system?
What's that?
An AFL top 8 without a wildcard round.
Exactly, mate. Very well done. Nice little segue. Just speaking about the commission, there was a commission and executive meeting. They're sort of rolling it around the country, and there was one in Perth yesterday, a bit of a whistle stop. We spoke to Andrew Dillon and we asked him about the Eagles, the assistant package that was handed to them. And hey, look, his commentary was, look, the only way is up for the Eagles. There's a process we went through. We discussed it at length in November. Look, my view doesn't change, Ben. I think that I don't agree with assistant packages. I don't agree with compensation for free agency. But if you're entitled to it, you've got to put your hand up. So I don't blame the Eagles for putting their hand up, and good luck to them. They were given some assistance.
Yeah, that's where I stand on it. You're already rewarding a team for being bad with the top pick in the draft. Rewarding them for years upon years upon years of bad decisions doesn't sit right with me. But fair enough. Hey, if you're offering it, you've got to buy a ticket to be in a raffle, West Coast. Fair enough. Go by all means, Eagles, good decision to put your hand up, apply for it, but I just don't think it should be an option.
Yeah, picks 1 and 2 are certainly going to help. They still could do something with pick 2. And I really like the extra rookie list spots, though. I think that not only helps them shore up their future, but it's probably important for their waffle team, which has been a bit on the nose the last few years.
It did feel more competitive watching West Coast at waffle level this season just gone compared to the past couple of years. There did seem to be a bit more of a, yes, they were still losing a lot of games, but there weren't as many thrashings as previous. There were games where the Eagles were in it right up until the end or final quarter. So, yeah, there were improvements at waffle level, and having those extra draft picks coming through the door is going to be a huge boost for them.
You got your calculator ready?
Well, as you know, journalists are notoriously very good at maths, so this is not going to be a challenge for us at all.
Well, I'm one who isn't, but I'm glad you are. Ben, this AFLW update is brought to you by Woodside Energy, a proud major partner of the Fremantle Dockers, supporting local footy from grassroots to greatness. So it comes down to this, Ben. Final round. Let's start with Friday night. So both the Eagles and Dockers live chances of playing finals. Of course, for the Eagles, it will be a maiden finals appearance. Daisy Pearce has them humming along just nicely. I like the defensive aspect to West Coast. So Friday night, Sullivan Logistics Stadium here in Perth. West Coast 7th, play Carlton 5th. The equation is win, and it's finals. And that is what Daisy has talked up for some time. The fact that it's in their hands. They get to choose their destiny. Lose, and they need Essendon to beat Sydney in a major upset. We won't discuss Jess Wrench too much. The appeal for the tribunal hearing is going on as we speak. So she's very important. She's a Rising Star nominee, very important to the defensive makeup. You saw both games last week. You covered both games last week. What did you make of the Eagles?
They missed Ella Roberts so much. Like they weren't bad. They were competitive. They certainly weren't blown out.
She adds a layer, doesn't she?
Rebecca Privatelli up forward for Sydney, who was first game back from her recall. She kicked 3 goals. They didn't really have a counter to her in the forward 50. Nice tall marking option. She took advantage of the chances which were given her. But the thing with Ella Roberts is there is, in pretty much every game, there's a quarter which is the Ella Roberts quarter, where she just goes, hop on.
I reckon there's 3.
Yeah. But there's at least one where she is clearly the best player in the league. Not just the game, the best player in the league. The way she moves is different to other players at that level. There is a fluidity and explosiveness to her. She looks like she's moving at a different speed to everyone. And that's your game breaker, right? Like, as good as likes of Bella Lewis and Emma Swanson are, I think Lou Painter's one, not just for the future, but for now. I've been really impressed with her.
She's also a Rising Star nominee.
Rising Star nominee. They put her around the ball at times against Sydney. She's been playing forward a lot of this season, but she can run through midfield or kind of be an option around the ball if needed. But Roberts is that she raises the ceiling so much. Even if Daisy Pearce has, substantially elevated the Eagles' floor, having Roberts in the side, raises the roof. And if she's not there, then it just brings them down a bit. They didn't have anyone make a turn to who could just, get them 8 disposals in a quarter. Bella Lewis, very, very good player. Love Bella Lewis as a midfield option. And, she was one of the Eagles' best on the weekend. But she's not the sort of player who can just completely take over the game in a blink of an eye.
What I like about Ella, she's tough too.
Yeah,
she's got everything, all the skills in the world, but she's really tough.
And
so she travelled last week.
She
late
did.
minute out with the hamstring tightness. So they've listed her as a test on Friday. What's your gut feel?
I think she gets up. She did travel to Sydney. She did travel to Sydney.
I'm with you, by the way. I think she gets up.
Yeah, it sounds like she was close to playing. Now, when it's a hamstring, when it's a soft tissue injury, like if this was an ankle injury, I would be...
Oh, she's playing.
Oh, she's playing. But I've found, from my, admittedly very amateur sporting career, if it's a bad, like an average ankle versus an average hamstring injury, I feel like you can play for an ankle. You can, bite down on the rope, so to speak, wrap it up, take some, as many Panadol legal painkillers as you like. Hamstring with a soft tissue injury only takes one wrong movement, one kind of explosive movement. And we just spoke about Ella Roberts' speed earlier, how that's such a big part of her game. It only takes one wrong movement and then it's all over. And that will be...
So is it worth the gamble? They win and they're playing.
They've got to.
Yeah.
They need to make finals, I think, they're still going to be fine next year with Daisy Pearce. You back them even at this point now to make finals next year. But they weren't expected to make finals at the start of the year. So for them, if they can, in Pearce's second year, if they can make finals, that is such a feather in the cap of not just her, but the entire program. And it says, we are here now. This is a viable program. This is not just somewhere to, which is going to take on a few contracts when players are out of favour over East or at other clubs. This is a place where you can come and win games and you can have big results in big games. So, for me, they've got a player. If she's not ready, then it's a sign that, the hamstring injury is a bit worse than
I really like the
expected.
Defence led by Charlie Thomas, Cleaver.
I think Roxy Roos had a quietly good season. I thought that Geelong game at Leederville a few weeks ago, she was awesome. Like, just her pressure and aerial contest was fantastic and a really big part of why they won that game so comprehensively.
One of the great names too.
Roxy Roo.
Roxy Roo.
Yeah, it's one of those names you have to say both the first and last name. You can't just say Roo. You have to say Roxy
Rolls
Roo.
out beautifully, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And she obviously came to them as part of that Aisling McCarthy trade a couple of years ago, which, I think maybe the Eagles would like that back to an extent, given how good Aisling McCarthy is, or maybe they would have tried tried as hard as possible to keep McCarthy at the club. But yeah, I mean, I think Roo has, very quietly just kind of carved out a nice role for herself.
Beautiful little segue there, Ben. I like the way you did that. 32 disposals and 2 goals last week to Ashley McCarthy. Adelaide, 8th position, play Freo 10th. 3 wins in a row for the Dockers. The equation is beat Adelaide at Norwood Oval and hope either West Coast or Sydney lose earlier in the round. So at least they'll know where they sit when they go to the ball is bounced to start this game on Sunday, or ball is thrown up, in fact. 44-point win over Richmond, a good result last week. I've mentioned McCarthy. Hayley Miller was another. O'Driscoll and Brazel in defence stood up really well. What worries me about Freo here is just they've left a lot late. They're 82.2%.
They're coming from behind.
Percentage-wise, they really need that. They needed to bank a bit more on the scoreboard early. The other thing that concerns me is the shape of Norwood Oval. It's very narrow.
The skinniness of it.
Eagles, I thought, didn't make a big deal of it, but just watching it, I thought they struggled a bit to adapt.
It's a change, right? Like, as much as you can move the cones in at training to simulate what it's like to play at Norwood, 9 times out of 10 you're playing in a regular size footy oval. Well, let's call the others regular size, because Norwood is very different, and I like that about Norwood. I like the charm of it. We saw Fremantle play.
A bit like Geelong, GMHBA.
Yeah, we saw Fremantle play Gold Coast in Gather Round there a couple of years ago, and the Dockers men really struggled to get to grips with it. I think they only won that game by 2 or 3 goals in the end, and that was a pre-Dimmer Hardwick Gold Coast. They were. It took them a long time to kind of get to grips, and they only really kicked away in the 4th quarter. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge for the Dockers as well.
What was your take on them last week?
Yeah, it was a game they were expected to win, and they did win. I think they'll be slight. I mean, we mentioned the percentage already. It's 82.2.
Oh, they're underdogs here.
Yeah. 82.2 percentage. They're about 20% off the other teams chasing finals. I thought the 3rd quarter last week against Richmond was a bit of that'll be won, but privately. But the quarter of it got away because they were so good in that 2nd quarter against the Tigers. They kicked away, and you're thinking, hang on, they've got a chance for a really big score here. This is a big chance to really eat into that percentage and maybe get it around the 90 mark heading into the final game of the season, which still isn't ideal. You're still 10 to 12% off the rest of the teams. But if you can just give yourself a puncher's chance, rack up a big as score as possible, then all of a sudden you're leaving a lot less to chance and other results heading into the final, the final round. And look, Dockers were always going to have to wait for other results to go their way. It is quite nice that they've got the last game of the round against Adelaide this Sunday. And they spoke about that post-game. I spoke to Gabby Newton after the win over the Tigers, and she said it's nice how that's kind of worked out, that all eyes are going to be on us for last game of home and away season. And they've got...
how do they win? How do the Dockers win?
By scoring more points than Adelaide.
Thank you. Boom, boom. Yeah.
I think they've looked their best when their midfield is up and about. I think McCarthy, we talked about earlier, she had 200 metres gained in the 1st quarter alone on Saturday. She's awesome. Gabby Newton's fantastic. I think Richmond did a good job in the 1st and 3rd quarters of just stopping their stoppage game a bit, really limiting the impact Mim Strom has. Mim Strom's such an important player for the Dockers, and I like some of the players they run through there, but I think this is one of those games where the likes of a Dana East or a Sarah Verrier, Gabby O'Sullivan as well, kind of a more unheralded players. This is where they need to step up and really put their mark on the game, because
it's a great opportunity to do it in the final game of the round.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, when I've watched this Dockers team, when they are winning the clearances and are able to get forward at will, that's when they look dangerous. It's when the other team are able to take that away from them, restrict their ball movement, lock the ball in a bit. That's where the Dockers have struggled to find answers all season long. They've got better at it as the season has gone along. I mean, don't want to bring up the past too much, but those Brisbane and North Melbourne thrashings early in the season, I mean, have completely ruined their season to the point where now, even if you just lose by 30 points in both of those, you enter this game with a far better percentage and a chance to to do something special in the final game of the season.
Well, they're not an American folk hero who wears a mask, mate. They're not the Lone Ranger. North Melbourne has smashed everyone this year. 23 straight wins, and I know people don't like to say, oh, let's compare it to the AFL because it's a different product. But they've matched that record of Geelong in the 1952-53 season. Now, that is so long ago. Bobby Davis was running around for Geelong, the Geelong Flyer, they used to call him. It's a long time ago, but that's an incredible record. Stretches back to round 3 last year. Would have been to the grand final the previous year, except they drew in round 2 last year. So it's an incredible record. My question to you is everyone just playing for second here? Because it feels like they are.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to see Melbourne versus North Melbourne in the grand final. I think that's...
what about my team, the Hawks, up against the Roos this weekend?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think so. I think
I
North will go through now undefeated.
I think so. I think that's the way it's headed. They've just been so dominant this year, so strong. And credit to North Melbourne for the investment in the women's program. It shows that, they shouldn't be punished for that. I've seen some...
From day one.
Yeah, exactly. This has been a long time coming. This isn't just, it's season 7 and season 8. Now we'll start building the program. They've been a very good AFL women's side for a long time.
So the question is it a legacy? Is it not a good thing to have a team so much better than the rest, or are they dragging other teams up?
Well, to quote Reverend Lovejoy from The Simpsons, the long answer, yes with a but, short answer, no with a however.
Okay.
It is and isn't good.
I actually think it can only be a good thing.
It's challenging other teams to raise their own programs. And some teams, let's be real, some teams do not care about their women's program as much as they should. They don't care about it as much as a men's program. They're not going to invest the extra money. That's probably not a great thing. You'd like all clubs to kind of really push their, a rising tide, lifts all boats. Exactly.
Love that quote.
The more you invest in a women's program, the better the club is going to be for it. So I think that North Melbourne have thrown down a gauntlet to every other club. I don't think every other club is going to, answer the call to action, but some will, and that'll be good for the health of the women's league. It is tough when you're watching North Melbourne and they're winning games by 70, 80 points every week, and you feel for the poor players on the other team who are doing their best, but they've come up against a program who is highly resourced, full of talented players, and no amount of effort is going to be able to bridge that gap.
A rising tide lifts all boats unless you're stuck on a sandbar. Remember that, Ben. But look, I saw North Melbourne play Freo at Fremantle Oval this year, and I walked away from that thinking no one's beating this team. What impressed me most was their ball movement and their numbers. They just had the extra number always, and
it's
just
such a
the ball movement
program,
was elite.
Yeah.
So it's going to take, if you knock them off this year, well done, you've really earned that premiership. But part of me wants to see them just go through because they thoroughly deserve it.
They deserve it. That's it. At the end of the day, like we kind of said earlier, this hasn't happened overnight. This is your chicken's coming home to roost.
Yeah. So what's your gut feel? So Eagles. I think the Eagles win. I think it's a bit of a struggle for the Dockers to go over there and win at Norwood. So I think the Eagles play finals.
Yeah, it just depends on Ella Roberts because they look a different team with and without Ella. To quote you too.
So it's a bit of a 21 day. If it's a proper hammy and she misses this week, is she right to come back the next match?
It's so hard to know with injuries. I
think she plays. They win.
Yeah,
that's my call.
Well, my concern then is if she plays, are they being honest and serious when they say?
I think
a test,
so.
She's 90%. If you get 90% of Ella Roberts, she's going to be fine, and that's good enough to win. If you're getting 70% of Ella Roberts, and maybe she's playing forward a bit too much, or not up around the ball. That's the other thing. Because she does rest forward, she can take over games inside forward 50. So is her hamstring? If Daisy says, okay, we're not going to be able to play much midfield, if at all. What impact can she have down forward? Is her hamstring healthy enough that she can 2-3 times a game just kind of win out in a forward contest? And even if she doesn't mark it, just bring it to ground level, create a contest. Can the Eagles take advantage of that when she does it?
Well, Daisy would say one soldier in, the next one soldier out, but she is some soldier, Ella. You have been listening to the West Sports Show, and this AFL update has been brought to you by Woodside Energy, a proud major partner of the Fremantle Dockers. Ben, enjoy the weekend of footy.
Always a pleasure, Quarters.
Thanks for joining me.